Panasonic has released new firmware for the Lumix 35-100. There had been a lot of complaints that this lens had micro jitters when holding it handheld with the OIS image stabilization. Let's see if this firmware update helps fix that problem. This 35-100 with OIS handheld. See if I'm getting the micro jitters that everyone's complaining about. See if that goes away with the upgrade. This is a recording with the 35-100 pre-firmware update. We'll see if we can see the micro jitters in this as well. Okay, this is shooting outside. This is shooting outside with the 35-100, and I'm trying to hold it fairly steady, and we'll see if the micro jitters disappear when I reshoot this. Here's another shot, handheld with the 35-100. Okay, here we have the new update. I did the firmware update to my 35-100. I did the firmware update to my 35-100. And the camera's making just a tiny little whirring sound, which it wasn't before. And I think that's the lens, and I think that's the optical image stabilizer. And this is zoomed all the way in. This is zoomed all the way in using the 35-100 with the new firmware. Okay, this is without the image stabilizer. This is with the image stabilizer and the new firmware. I'm looking through it seems to be improved, but we will find out soon enough. We will find out soon enough, but this is the new firmware on the 35-100 at full telephoto. This is medium in between the two ends of the zoom. This is zoomed all the way out at basically at 35 millimeters. This is halfway zoomed in. Halfway zoomed in. And then full zoom with the 35-100 Lumix G lens with new firmware. I will now test all of these lenses. The 35-100 is in the center, and all these lenses have image stabilization, and we will test their OIS capabilities. This is the new 14-140 with OIS, and I wanted to see how that compares to the 35-100. This is the 14-140 at 100 millimeters with OIS. This is my 42.5 millimeter with OIS, and I wanted to see how the image stabilization compares to the 35-100 with the new firmware. 12-35 f2.8 OIS comparison at 35 millimeters. 100-300 f4 at 100 millimeters OIS comparison. 100-300 at 300 OIS comparison. 14-140 at 100 millimeters OIS for comparison. 42.5 handheld for comparison. 12-35 at 35 millimeters handheld for comparison. 100-300 OIS handheld for comparison. This is the 14-140 at 100 millimeters. This is the 42.5 millimeter with OIS. 12 to 35 millimeter with OIS for comparison. 100 to 300 OIS at 100 millimeters for comparison. Here we are at 300 millimeters. 14140 at 100 millimeters. 100 to 300 at 100 millimeters. So I did my tests, and it really looks like it is definitely improving the lens on full telephoto. As I said, there's a tiny little bit of whir in the image stabilizer now that wasn't there before. It's very, very quiet, the whir. Now if I'm to zoom out and hold it, which I'm doing now, there's a little bit more of the micro jitters on wide angle, but they seem to have been really reduced on full telephoto. I'm still thinking I'm seeing a little bit of micro jitters on the wide shot before versus full telephoto. Because here's full telephoto again. So overall, the firmware update is a very good improvement to this lens. I have a tendency to want to use it on the more telephoto end anyways.
Always turn to Frugal Filmmakers for more information, news, and reviews about these exciting products.